Really appreciate it. It's nice to be with you all. I'm going to share my screen and queue up sort of the start of the conversation about what we're going to be talking about today. Yeah, we are going to talk a little bit about Scotland. Scotland, is a quite vast country, actually. It's very spread out and very rural. And, there's so many different ways that an itinerary can come together for Scotland, really. And so what I wanted to do today is actually focus a little bit more specifically on just some certain regions that have really everything in a nutshell that's really available in the country. So we're not going to go necessarily all the way to the Northern Highlands, and we're not going to go down to the Southwest, but we are going to talk about the area in and around Edinburgh, as well as Perthshire primarily. And we'll show you in a second what I mean. But here's a beautiful picture of the Central Highlands of Scotland. When clients think about Scotland, of course, they might think of our very famous Highland coo. They call them Highland coos in Scotland, not cows. And they have the wonderful long hair, the big horns, really just fantastic. Of course, the cultural scenery, the coastal scenery, and variety of castle types of experiences, which I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the best castles to check out as well in the Central Highlands today. But what I'm focused on primarily, like I say, here we go. You see the red line there that's kind of a semicircle around the map of the country. And what you see here is what I refer to again as the Central Highlands of Scotland. So you're going to have the Pitlochry there on the map, and this whole area of Perthshire, which door to door from Pitlochry down to the southern border of Scotland is 3 hours. So whether you're staying in Edinburgh or whether you're staying actually in the heart of the Central Highlands, there's so many things that are available right at the doorstep. And so you see, we're not getting into the far northern Highlands today. We're not getting into the West Coast. We're really just focused in on this one particular area, again, because of the cultural heritage that's available. I think a lot of family clients, a lot of families, whether they have Scottish ancestry or not, a lot of the history of the Scottish kings and queens all really played out in this area as well. So there's a lot to really talk about. And then a little more specifically here, as you see, Edinburgh is there on the bottom of the map. And then I'm populating all of these different sites with the stars, including many distilleries that are really within about an hour and a half drive of Edinburgh. So anything you see on this map is no more than 90 minutes away from the Scottish capital city. You see here, I'm going to try to, if I can get my pointer to work. I'm going to try to use my pointer. Here we go. We got my pointer up. Here we go. So here we are in Edinburgh, in the capital. And then we're going to come up here to Stirling Castle. We're also going to hear a lot about the distilleries. Some of our favorites will come up as well, including Blair Atholl up here around Pitlochry. We're also going to talk about St. Andrews. We're going to touch on some golf. And again, Glamis Castle, Falkland Palace, some of these really iconic sites that are all, like I say, about an hour and a half to 2 hours away only from Edinburgh. So clients can really make the most of 4 or 5 night stay in Scotland, or a longer itinerary focused on this area. But really the point here is to illustrate that Scotland is just like Ireland, not a one-time destination in your life. There are many ways to experience this country. You can come back many times over the course of one's life and see different portions of it as well. But this is really one of our favorite areas. So, and then also you'll see with the stars that have popped up, these are where all of our celebrated hotels in the Perthshire region and along the coast are located. So we've got the Old Course Hotel, which we'll see a little bit later, Turin Castle, which is one of our exclusive use properties. So this would be more for like a buyout type of experience for a family, and very iconic Gleneagles, which again is just about an hour away actually from Edinburgh, which we'll see a little bit later. But first, let's talk about Edinburgh. Edinburgh is the iconic capital city of Scotland. I think when people think of Scotland, they think of the beautiful Edinburgh Castle that's up there on the hill. You've got the old town here along the Royal Mile, which is one of the main iconic things to do when visiting Edinburgh. You can spend either a half day on the Royal Mile with the guide, and there's a longer, more immersive full day experience along the Royal Mile as well. So I especially like to talk about this for clients who, with families who maybe like have a Harry Potter interest. So a lot of Harry Potter things as well along the Royal Mile. So in addition to the Edinburgh Castle and St. Giles Cathedral and some of the things we associated with Scottish history, there are great Harry Potter sites, kind of in the offshoots of the alleys along the Royal Mile. So we can easily intersperse things like that into the tours of the city. The Palace of Holyrood House is pictured here. This is at the end of the Royal Mile. So as we start at Edinburgh Castle and work our way down that about a mile or so over the course of that walk, we come to the Palace of Holyrood House, which is the Queen of England's official residence in Scotland. It's a fabulous, fabulous spot, and definitely a great thing to do after your tour. But here, there's also a really nice cafe just across the street. So I like to send clients here often to have lunch after their tour, and then they can visit Holyrood House independently in the afternoon if they like, or take a hike up Arthur's Seat and see the great spectacular views of the city. But there's the wonderful Edinburgh Castle, of course, which is one of the most iconic pictures of the city. What you see there on the left with the fireworks and all of the festivities going on, that's a picture of the royal, the military tattoo. It's a ceremonial event that happens all throughout the month of August during the Edinburgh Festival. And clients, everyone loves to go to the tattoo and see all the pageantry involved with that. And there's always a fantastic fireworks display as well each night. But Edinburgh Castle is an absolute must visit. And it's, it's very accessible as well. So if you have clients who maybe are thinking, oh, I'd love to go to a castle, but I'm not able to maybe do as many stairs, they're a little bit put off by sometimes mobility, just that they have some challenges like that. It's just good to note that Edinburgh Castle is fully accessible. So even though it can look a bit imposing with its position, it's easy to access no matter your age or your fitness level to get up and actually see it. And then from there, we'll go into some of the top sites in Scotland's cultural heartland. What you're seeing here is a space that's like not necessarily visited by everybody on their trips, but it's called Scone Palace. And this is, sorry, I'm going to move my cursor so I can show you the. I'm trying to hide the toolbar so I can show you the pictures better, but it's fine. So Scone Palace, this is this place where Scottish kings were always crowned. So Robert the Bruce was crowned here, Charles II was crowned here. They have this fantastic garden maze as well on the property. And a lot of the things to see here are all on the ground floor as well. So it's always a good option too for clients who maybe have some challenges with mobility, but also the V&A. This is in Dundee on the coast. The V&A Museum is an extension of the Victoria and Albert Museum in London that you may know of, with all of its British treasures. But the V&A, this is their first museum outside of London, and it's the first design-led museum in Scotland, and it's right there on the coast in Dundee. So this is a wonderful thing to do, either maybe going on up towards Glamis Castle or from St. Andrews. This is very convenient as well. Blair Castle has a really important distinction. Blair Castle is actually 700 years old, owned by the same family who live in Blair Castle. This is you've got the interior of the castle to visit, which has about 30 different rooms in the interior that one can see. But also the notable thing here about Blair Castle, and I love this for clients who are military enthusiasts, is that they have the last private standing army of anywhere in Europe. The Atholl Highlanders are what they're called, and you see them pictured here. They're the last private army that still remains in Europe, and they do wonderful ceremonial events and demonstrations there at Blair Castle. The House of Brewer is fantastic. This is, as you might have seen on the map when I was talking about Pitlochry, the House of Brewer is a great place to stop off. It can be done on the way up to the Northern Highlands because it's right there off the main highway. But the House of Brewer has everything from wonderful cashmere to other artisanal products that are produced only in Scotland. This is a must-stop place for your souvenirs to bring home, for your grandchildren, for your children, treats for yourself as well. It's all local Scottish producers who are showcased here in this marketplace, and it's absolutely fantastic, and it's very convenient to visit. You see here some of the produce, and they've got a great cafe as well, so it's really lovely. Again, then also Outlander. We'd be remiss if we don't talk about Outlander. Outlander, of course, I think many of you have seen Outlander program. I think in some respects, Outlander has put Scotland on the map for, a different type of client. You didn't really know as much about the landscape and some of the wonderful things there to see. But Falkland Palace is a fantastic site. This was Mary Queen of Scots' home. She loved Falkland Palace, and I'm going to show you a little bit more about that in just a minute when we come through. But Linlithgow Palace, as well as Doune Castle, these are all things featured in Outlander. So if you've read the books or you've watched the television programs of Outlander, you'll probably recognize some of these things because these are all places where filming has happened for Outlander. And whiskey, of course. What trip to Scotland would be complete if you didn't have a great whiskey experience? And there are so many wonderful options here. Everything you see on this slide with these 9 images, these are all distilleries that are in that Central Highlands region. So whether one is staying in St. Andrews, whether you're staying in Edinburgh, whether you're maybe at Glen Eagles or you're in Pitlochry, these are all right at your doorstep and offer some of the best private tour experiences in our collection. Edgerador I particularly really like. I just find it to be the setting there on the river, the colors, the red, the white. It's a small, intimate distillery right outside of Pitlochry. This is a wonderful place to work into your trip for sure. And you can really do distilleries in many ways, but there's also the celebrated way to do them. And this is at Deanston, where you have more of a master class at Deanston Distillery. And this is very near Stirling Castle. So if you have clients or yourselves who appreciate the history side of things, but also would like to learn a distillery experience that's very special, Deanston works really well. They also have a great lunch that you can have at Deanston too. So there's some really fun things there. Lots of flexibility in that respect. Glamis Castle is a little further up. Again, when I showed you the V&A Dundee Museum, the Glamis Castle is just north of Dundee. This is another spectacular place that you can see is just one of the most iconic castles that one can visit in Scotland. It's actually the castle of Macbeth. And then Stirling. So we've come to Stirling here up on the hill with the wonderful history pertaining to William Wallace. And this is Braveheart, Braveheart living and breathing for you. So a lot of things right in this area. I want to talk a little bit as well about our exclusive experiences at Celebrated, the experiences that we can offer that are a little bit more behind the scenes and bespoke. You're probably looking at these pictures and thinking, what are they doing playing tennis on that court? Well, the Falkland Palace, which I showed you a few minutes ago, again, was Mary Queen of Scots, her beloved home in her time. And this also has one of the original tennis courts that ever existed in the world. And it's totally fully preserved there. You can see it in the pictures. And our clients have the opportunity, if they're really well behaved, to play tennis themselves on one of the original tennis courts that was ever built in the world. So it's very unique and special. And Falkland Palace, like I say, isn't so much always the first thing people think of, because people think of Stirling and they think of William Wallace and Braveheart. Falkland Palace is just a little bit further up the road. And it's a little bit less touristic, so it will not be as busy of a site, but it's completely well preserved. They have beautiful gardens there as well. We love to send clients there. It's definitely more of a celebrated way of things. And then you think of pubs. Of course, one thing is the pubs in Ireland, but there are fantastic pubs in Scotland as well. And these are some of our favorites. I would particularly bring your attention to Aikman's, Selbar and St. Andrews, one of our favorites, as well as the Moulin Inn, which is in Pitlochry. And I keep mentioning Pitlochry a lot, but I really like Pitlochry. Pitlochry is a Victorian spa town right there, basically at the entrance to the national park. As you leave Edinburgh and head north into the Highlands, Pitlochry would be one of the first things you come to after Stirling Castle. And that is just, it's a wonderful town where one can walk around. There are a lot of shops, there are a lot of restaurants and bars and pubs. And we have a lovely hotel named Fonab Castle, which is right there in Pitlochry as well. That's right along where the waterfall is. So it's a fantastic setting. And again, Robert the Bruce, of course, the actual Braveheart himself. You see Stirling Castle pictured there. This is all in this area. And then the East Nook. I want to talk about the East Nook. And you see it says NEUK, but it isn't, it's the Nook. And it's really what it is this coastal area southeast of St. Andrews on the way down to Edinburgh with all of these wonderful iconic fishing villages. There are wonderful artisans here as well. You see on the bottom right a picture of Creole pottery. So there are a lot of pottery things, textiles, very special little restaurants, a lot of wonderful fish and chips places to stop and enjoy. And I love this in many ways. You can do the East Nook of the Five of Forth from Edinburgh just for the day as a day trip. You can do it from St. Andrews. You can do it on your way to St. Andrews from Edinburgh or vice versa on the way down. But when we've got the time in the itinerary to layer this in, I really like this because you get such a local feel of Scotland. So imagine in an itinerary having, your 2-3 nights in Edinburgh, maybe then going up via Stirling to Pitlochry area, enjoying the national park, the distilleries around there, and then coming down to St. Andrews, and then finishing up with a lovely drive down the East Nook of 5. It's a spectacular way to spend, 5 or 6 days. We also have a haggis masterclass. Now, I know you might look at haggis and think, oh my gosh, who eats that? But if someone is really interested in the thing that is a true Scottish delicacy and the most iconic dish of Scotland, the haggis, we do have a masterclass for haggis that we can offer, but maybe a little bit more friendly to the palate is a wonderful chocolate masterclass that's available just outside of Pitlochry as well. And here you can actually go behind the scenes of the chocolatier. This is the Highland Chocolatier, and make the chocolates. This is very family friendly. There are a lot of different ways to experience the chocolate making. One might always think of the chocolate making in Scotland, but it's absolutely a big draw actually. And these are a wonderful group of Frenchmen who have come to Scotland and built up a fantastic business. So they do some great experiences there. And then again, to meet locals. What are the locals in the ducks and the sheepdogs? So we've got fantastic private sheepdog demonstrations as well in this part of the country. So if clients really want to have a farm experience, they really want to meet some local people in that regard, we can absolutely incorporate something like that into a trip in this region of the country. Broome Hall I've included because this is a really important stately home. This is actually the ancestral home of the Bruce family, so they've always had this house. And this again is in the same area, so we can do a private visit at Broome Hall, which is very special. So this can be done after hours or before hours. You have it all yourself with a member of the Lord himself who take you around the house. And then, of course, activities in the region. And I find, especially right now, the interest in St. Andrews on the old course is very, very high because next year the British Open is celebrating its 150th anniversary, and the 150th anniversary of the British Open will be played at the old course at St. Andrews, which is the original course. It's the home of golf. It also happens to be one of the most difficult places to get a tee time, even in normal times, but we can help you navigate the parameters around golf at the old course in St. Andrews. But there are a lot of other great courses in the region. You've got, just in the St. Andrews system alone, you also have the new course, the Jubilee course, and then some other fantastic links courses all around Scotland. So I always say to clients, if the old course is the be all and end all and they absolutely have to play the old course, we might want to rethink how we approach the trip. But if you just really want a fantastic links experience, we have that in spades for your clients. Also wonderful fishing experiences with private gilly along the River Tay and other areas, things in this area. We've got the fly fishing, the rod fishing as well. This is a wonderful way to get a sense of Scotland with the outdoor pursuits. And the hiking opportunities are absolutely endless. Everything from 2-mile short, easy jaunts just along the base of the mountain to, if you have clients who really would like to hike, really as a full day and scale some of the taller mountains in Scotland with the expert guide, we have that as well. So a lot of times I hear people say, oh, the clients are interested in hiking. And I always say, okay, well, let's talk about that because that can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. So it could be more of a leisurely walk, like I say, or we can do multi-day hiking experiences in this part of Scotland and really all over Scotland, but there are a lot of things available in this area because this area, the Central Highlands incorporates the Cairngorms National Park. There's also the 5 Coastal Path, again, for walking. This when I was talking about the East Nook of the East Nook and coastal villages. There are great walking paths along the ocean as well, and we can help with that, even like a point-to-point walk, where maybe the driver drops someone off at one end and then picks them up at the other towards the end of the day. A lot of flexibility. There's so many things to think about in terms of Scotland with the types of experiences that are available, because it's not just about golf, it's not just about whiskey, it's not just about history, it's not just about culture. It can be all of those things brought together in that perfect box. And the more we know about you and the more we know about your clients, we can really customize a trip to Scotland in a way that maybe no one's really ever thought of before. As a reminder, everything we do is customized. With some traditional overview things that we would always pretty much incorporate if someone hasn't been to Scotland before. We really love to know about, interest in outdoor pursuits and in the whiskey, and of course, any ancestral elements as well. If there's a heritage element for the family that's important, we love to know where they come from so we can match that up as well. Just a little bit about our celebrated hotels and homes too. Gleneagles, I would like to say about. I showed it to you on the map before. I can go back to the map if this helps at the end. But Gleneagles is only really about an hour and a half away from Edinburgh city centre. This is one of the top resorts in not just in Scotland, but really in the world. They have so many wonderful activities here. There is golf here, Parkland courses, PGA championship courses, but you have wonderful falconry, clay pigeon shooting, off-road driving. They have a wonderful gun dog school here. They have tennis, they have equestrian. So if you have clients that are really looking for maybe one stop in addition to Edinburgh as a great experience in terms of resort atmosphere with a lot to do, but also to be able to easily access all of those wonderful sightseeing and touring experiences that I showed you, Gleneagles is the place for that. And they have so many wonderful dining options on property, as well as a great spa. If we're doing more of a stay in St. Andrews, maybe golf is a big focus around St. Andrews. We have the Old Course Hotel right there, actually at the course in the heart of St. Andrews. And then just about 5 minutes outside the town center is Rufflett's, which is has fabulous gardens. And this is a great country house type of hotel experience for those who would like something a little bit more intimate, but still want to be really close to St. Andrews. Kinloch House is up there, actually just more into the Cairngorms National Park. This is more of a 4-star, really charming country house. They don't have activities here per se, but it's a very comfortable, warm, friendly experience to stay at Kinloch House. And Fonab Castle is the property I mentioned that's right there in the heart of Pitlochry. So you get the castle stay in town, which is unique to have as well, to have those elements. So you can stay in a castle and also be right in the heart of the town and walk around. Cromlix is very special. Cromlix is, I shouldn't really say this, but it's probably one of my personal favorite properties. It's a real manor, like mansion type of property. It's very near Gleneagles, but it's quite small. It's only about 20 rooms at Cromlix, and it's owned by Andy Murray, who the tennis star Andy Murray. He grew up just down the road from Cromlix in a village called Dunblane, and he bought this, and he's put a lot of money into Cromlix. And I quite like Cromlix for clients who are on the higher end, who maybe are thinking about wanting to have something that's not quite Gleneagles in terms of so much going on and more of a resort atmosphere, but they would really like a very high-end country house stay. But to be able to go to Falkland Palace, to be able to do the Outlander sites around that area, to get to St. Andrews easily, Stirling Castle, again, the location for the touring is absolutely fantastic. So it's a very special property. And they also have the Gate Lodge there as more of a private, more exclusive use, more romantic type of an option as well. We also have some other celebrated homes. So we've got some lodges on some of the estates. The Burnside Lodge is actually on the Rufflett's estate. And Hawkswood is another private residence property that we now have as part of our new Celebrated Homes collection that we launched last year, in addition to Roundel and the Kinnis Lodge. So we've got some 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom private options, more like kind of really nice apartments, in addition to the hotels that we offer in the area. And then on the more high end of the exclusive use side, you have places like Turin Castle, where if you have a larger family, they can take Turin fully privately, fully serviced, really live like the lords and ladies of the manor. And then a more contemporary option in a historic building is the Ryan Farmhouse, which is a four-bedroom farmhouse, actually, not far from St. Andrews, that's been completely redone and is very contemporary inside. So some real great flexibility in terms of those options. And then just a little bit more about further afield with the Scottish Highlands, the Cairngorms National Park, which I mentioned. This is right there at the Central Highlands thing where I was showing you. And then further on, Glencoe, the Great Glen. This is going more up towards the northern part of the country. And then you've got great air access as well. So you've got Edinburgh, like I mentioned, which will bring you, here's Dundee, which is where that V&A Museum is. St. Andrews is here to give you a bit more of an orientation. Pitlochry, Spa Town is just here. So again, hour and a half away from Edinburgh City Centre. Glasgow Airport's down here on the bottom left. You've also got air into Inverness. So this Inverness will be really the gateway to the more northern Highlands, and also the airport in Aberdeen, which is fantastic because there's great flights from London and from Amsterdam into Aberdeen as well. And you could start up there, especially if you have golfers. There's great golf courses up around Aberdeen. There's some important sites around Aberdeen as well. Slains Castle, which is actually the Castle of Dracula, that's up here, and there are spectacular coastal drives. If you have clients who've ever thought about things like the North Coast 500 or read about the North Coast 500, which runs all around the Northern Highlands and can be quite a long driving route, there's really spectacular driving as well that's available from Inverness around to Aberdeen. That's a little bit more accessible, and it allows us to layer in some of our great celebrated hotels into the driving trips. And just some more beautiful scenic images. I mentioned the North Coast 500 briefly. There's a picture of that as well. And of course, the locals with the cows. So more about the culture. You saw all this mostly in the presentation, but Blair Castle, Highland Chocolatier, which I mentioned, of course, whiskey experiences, lots of different whiskey experiences, or sheepdog demonstrations, plenty of castles to choose from. Sometimes people will say, well, there's too many castles on the itinerary. Well, you don't have to go to every castle for sure, but there are some that are really important. And some where you just might want to get the photographs from the exterior because of where they sit. They're absolutely spectacular. And there are so many different types of activities that we can do in the Highlands. I showed you the fishing and hiking specifically, but shooting is widely available, boating and kayaking, and of course, the different golf experiences that are available as well. The Highland Games, the Great Falconry, especially with Glen Eagles, and some more just little quick things about our hotels and the area. So there's a lot there to show you. And hopefully that was a good 30 minutes for you.
Well, Ty, it definitely was a good 30 minutes for me. Thank you very much. And I hope it was a good 30 minutes for everybody else too. See, I love Scotland.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's great. I mean, you said, to incorporate more than just one type of item. See, I'm a castle guy, I'm a golf guy, I'm a Scotch guy. So, I've got that. I'm a food guy. Yeah. So, I mean, you just hit on everything for me. And with everything just being, like you said, within an hour to an hour and a half of Edinburgh, at least in the area that we covered tonight.
Yeah.
And I go back to that first slide you showed with the map of the hotels and the castles that you have. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, it seems like you have one maybe every 3 or 4 miles somewhere. So there's always going to be a very nice place.
It feels that way. Yeah, exactly. There really is. And I think that, what I've always tried to convey with these presentations is also that, there's no one way to do the destination. So, because a lot of times clients come to us and they'll say, hey, Ty, the clients are going to be in London. They've only got 4 nights. They want to do an extension into Scotland. Well, if you only have 4 nights as an extension, because that's what you're constrained with your trip, maybe you go and stay in Edinburgh, or maybe you stay at Glen Eagles and you use that as a base, but you still can do most all the things that I showed you.
Yeah.
As day trips.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways that it can manifest itself. And then you do things like Inverness and the Northern Highlands and the West Coast on a more, a further trip another time. Because there's also a lot of driving distance once you really get further north, and things are quite spread out. Yeah. Whereas what I focused on tonight is quite flexible.
Okay.
There's a question from Lisa.
There's a questions coming in about the Open Championship and if there's tickets and availability.
So that's an excellent question. The short answer is not really, but there's a caveat to that. So when they announced St. Andrews originally for the tournament next year, a lot of the original allotment of tickets to the general public were pretty much scooped up quite quickly. And then there were some hospitality packages available as well. But what they've now done is they've moved the balance of the tickets that are going to be available, they've moved into a ballot system. So the ballot is open. So they're taking the ballot actively now. You can go on the open.com, which is the British Open's website. And on the open.com, it has all the information about how clients can put in for the ballot. And then basically what they've said is around October, November timeframe of this year is when they will start allocating whoever gets tickets from the ballot. If clients really want to go to the British Open, that's really going to be at this point the only way, unless they already have tickets. If they already have tickets, there's some things we can do, but if they don't, it's going to be a little bit trickier. The other thing is, again, you saw St. Andrews on the map. I showed you Rufflets and Old Course Hotel, a few lodges. That there's not a lot of accommodation up that way. So there's nothing available in that area. So if someone is going to the British Open, they are going to be going to and from Edinburgh or from Gleneagles or something like that to access the tournament. So I'm taking, anytime I get a request like this, and honestly, I'm getting probably 2 or 3 emails a day about the British Open. I'm just saying, if they don't have tickets, let's have a conversation about it. And I don't even know about the ticket pricing, Melissa, honestly, because from the time it was originally announced, all of those were scooped up. And then I was encouraging people to go ahead and buy the hospitality packages that were available. And those ranged anywhere from like $1,000 to $2,000 kind of per person per day for those hospitality packages. Those premium ones are all gone now. And there's a handful, I think, of hospitality options available on certain days that are probably around $500 per person. But those are all on that open.com website. It's not something we ever took an allocation for or sold because it's just not kind of really what we do. We service it more once they come to us and say that they've sorted it out.
So the
For that
Open
particular event, because it's just the demand is just epic. It's just very, very challenging.
So St. Andrews is working the Open Championship, kind of how they work their tee times, by ballot.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. This is what I was trying to say about St. Andrews now is that because of COVID and the gift that keeps on giving, and the reality of how much business from St. Andrews had to be moved from 2020 into 21, now into 22, and the uncertainty with all of this, the ballot at St. Andrews for next year is not even open for anybody. It's not even available. And I don't even know that they're really going to do it, honestly. They're not even saying that they're going to open tee times on the new course and the Jubilee course for next year until probably October, November. So what's happening though is all the other courses that are also great, whether you're talking about Dornoch in the north or Gulan right outside of Edinburgh, their tee books are all open for next year. So if clients are holding out thinking I'm going to go play the old course and build a trip around that, I don't really advise that for next year because I think it's not going to work.
Well, even
Because you
Carnoustie
won't
is
really
not
get
too
anything
far.
else from them.
Yeah, and Carnoustie is not too far away from St. Andrews, which is also in the open rotation. So,
Yeah. And it's also a very hard course to get a tee time on. Last week, I got pretty much the only tee time I think that was left for early June at Carnoustie.
Yeah.
For the public. So those courses are just very difficult.
Yes, yeah, they are. But like you said, and then I know you mentioned the distilleries that are in the area, but the distilleries, depending on where you are on the island, their product is quite different as well.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned chocolate, and I cannot, it's also something dear to my heart. But every country in the world, I think, believes they make the world's best chocolate. So I think we should also try the Scottish chocolate as well. So
yeah, you can't go. You won't be disappointed for sure. So
yeah,
add it to the list.
You mentioned something that I thought was quite interesting, and it wasn't really you didn't use the word interview, but I think you said let's talk about it when you were talking about the hiking and the golf and stuff like that. I like that process of what you guys do, and I want everybody listening to this tonight to know that that's what you guys do. You listen to the people on what they want to do and then design a trip that fits their wants and needs.
Well, we try.
Yeah, is that kind of sums up what you really try to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're as good as the information that we receive. So I always say it's like if I know more, and that's why because the usual, not that there's a usual thing, but a lot of times the email will say, oh, they're interested in the old course, they're interested in this. And I'm like, well, is that just because that's what they think they should be asking for, or does it really have to be? Because a lot of times they don't understand that maybe this distillery experience is better, or this other golf course maybe more sense. Because sometimes if it's about actually being able to go on the trip and be able to do it, you know, there are some other things to consider as well. But I do think that I hope, we really try to ask a lot of great questions at Discovery. We'll come back and ask more qualifying questions. And especially when I see things about hiking and stuff, I do ask for more, because you know, what a hike means to me, someone who is a serious hiker, is very different than maybe someone who really just kind of wants to take some pictures. So we like to ask those questions.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's great. And I think it was when you were talking about hiking that struck it with me, because there are people that like a path, you know, like you said, and there are some people that say, I want to hike to the top of that strenuous hill or mountain. So, you know, hiking is different to everybody. So you do need to ask questions. So it's
and we can cater to those needs for sure. So
yeah. And
thank you all very much.
Yeah. And although a lot of people shy away from some of the food, you know, when you mention haggis, because people think it's worth it. You got to give it a shot, whether it's the class and then trying it yourself after you've cooked it, or just the restaurant. I think everybody's got to try it.
Yeah. It's just good to know we've got the diversity of options.
Yes. Well, there's a diversity of options of lots of things to do in Scotland. So, Ty, thank you very much for yet another wonderful presentation on an area that you cover. I do like the fact that you reiterate that, you know, both Ireland and Scotland and England, all these places are more than one trip. You need to break them out to a few trips to really do it right and really enjoy and learn about the culture and see the sights and do exactly what you need to do. So I do appreciate the 3 endeavors you did for us over the last few months. Thank you very much. I know. Well,
thank you for the opportunity.
I haven't covered Italy with you yet, though, so I might have to lean on you one more time.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. The demand in Italy right now is a little bit. The team it's unbelievable, the request, and we're so thankful. But oh my gosh, it's one of the only places people can go right now too, and it's already one of the most popular. So you know, we're still booking stuff for next week for Italy. It's wild.
Jeez. But it's a good time, not just for Italy, but for Scotland and Ireland and everywhere else you do to start planning 22, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if anyone wants to go to these destinations in the next year, I would say start working on it for sure now. And then also, again, manage client expectations, because if they want things like British Open, or if there are certain things with golf that they want, you're probably gonna have to be a little bit flexible at this point, because on those things they're late actually. But absolutely anything for next year. And just remember as well, I didn't talk about this a lot. Last thing I'll say before I let y'all go is, a lot of times, especially if you have clients from, you know, if you're in California and stuff, people have this idea that like Scotland is really extreme with weather and things like this, but honestly, it's not.
No, it isn't.
And I'm a big fan of Scotland in October, November. The fall is absolutely beautiful there. It's not as crowded, but you can still do everything. And even April is great. If someone really wants the best tee times in Scotland, go in April.
Yeah.
Those are my tips.
Like you said, the weather isn't that much different. It's going to be windy and rainy sometimes, even in June and July. So
I could still get a tee time at Carnoustie in April right now.
See, there we go. Yeah, see, and I remember when I went to visit my cousin who lived just south of Scotland for a while, and he said, "Bring all your rain gear, because if you're going to wait for the perfect day to golf in Scotland, it's not going to happen." And when I got there, it was 70 degrees the whole week, and he says it was the BBC was saying it was oppressively hot, and I always remember that.
Oh, there you go.
So, anyway, Ty,
travel for the experience, not the weather.
I don't see any other questions in the chat. So if we have something that comes in later tonight or tomorrow, I will let you know.
You know me anytime.
Very much. We
My
do
pleasure.
Appreciate it, and you take care.
Have a great rest of your summer.
Yes, we will.
Bye, guys.
Next week we are on with Back into North America, which we'll be doing rail with Rocky Mountain Tours. So we'll see what Andy Magistrali has in store for us next week. So until then, thank you and good night.